The NFL might have been put on notice Monday night in the wild card matchup versus the Minnesota Vikings. We're going to talk about everything that has to do about that game this week for sure, but for sure tonight we're going to discuss a whole lot about the game all on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Josh Rahino. If you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor and press that subscribe button now, as 83.5% of you guys still are not subscribed. You're watching the videos but haven't pressed that subscribe button. Do me a favor and press it now so you don't miss any daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest. Let's get into this first bit of news, and really the only bit of news to talk about. The Rams win. They take care of business in Arizona State Farm Arena, or whatever you want to call it, State Farm Stadium. I'm not really sure exactly what they call it. Here you go. Rams take care of business. I got the Rams chain on. Is there anything really we can say? I mean, there's so many things to talk about, so many things to discuss, but are you not entertained? I mean, what a game, what a finish from the Rams to go out, beat a team like the Minnesota Vikings, a 14-win team. I mean, not just beat them. I mean, take care of business. I mean, handle them, dominate them, whatever you want to say. 27-9 was your final score, and it really just, to be honest, wasn't really a game half the time. I mean, it really felt like the Rams early on jumped on them early. And in my honest opinion, from watching the game, it just looked like the Rams were flying all over the place, right? They were just flying to the ball. Every time you saw a Minnesota Viking have the ball in their hands, it was 4 or 5 blue jerseys there to tackle him and slow him down. And I think ultimately, there's just so many things to say, but I'm almost speechless at this point, right? And we talked about this, right? I did predict the Rams to win this game. 28-24 was my prediction, but I didn't expect this. I didn't expect a 27-9 final score victory. Now, there are some things, I think, if you want to be the nitpicking group, there are some things to discuss, right, about the Rams. And there are some concerns they need to address, right? Maybe the second half performance offensively. Maybe you can say they weren't really trying to score as much or whatever it was, slow the game down, maybe, run some air out the ball, but you don't want to go out in the second half and only score 3 points when you scored 24 in the first. So there is things to adjust and work on for sure, and I think Sean McVay can acknowledge that as well. But there are a lot of positives in this game, and the number one being the defense, right? 9 points from a Minnesota Vikings team that was, again, a 14-win team playing pretty well offensively throughout their year. Offense has so many weapons that we talked about that they had to be concerned about, yet getting to Sam Darnold was kind of the goal of the night, and they got to him. They got to him very often. I mean, it was 9 sacks, I believe, ties a playoff record in the NFL. 9 sacks in one single game, and zero from Jared Verse, their number one pass rusher. So ultimately, of course, 6 pressures from Jared Verse still, but ultimately, the Rams as a team, they just came out, we said this, right, to have that motivation. First of all, Sean McVay, give him his credit, right? He's already gotten the team ready to go, powering through adversity all year long, right? You start 1-4, you make the playoffs barely, you sneak into the playoffs, and then you come into your wild card matchup. You have to get your game moved, historic move, moving it from Los Angeles to Arizona due to the tragic situation in Los Angeles. And yet you go out there, you have that motivation from Dan Campbell as well, right? Saying, see you in 2 weeks, talking to the Minnesota Vikings, which again, we're going to have to revisit throughout the week. And we're definitely going to have to discuss that conversation at some point, especially if the Rams get to a point where they play the Detroit Lions and the rest in the remainder of the playoffs. Getting too far ahead of myself, I know. But to have all of that, right, and then have Los Angeles on your back, to have the city on your back, to really feel that weight and pressure to bring home a victory, at least one victory this playoffs for the Rams, for the city of Los Angeles, for the fans, so they can just kind of, have a smile on their face, right? For one night, some people in Los Angeles were able to watch a playoff game and really root for their Los Angeles Rams and go home happy, right? At least be able to enjoy a game and take their mind off of what's been going on, And so we could pull this up here. I want to I'll go back to what we were talking about here with the final score. And again, second half, maybe you can talk about, give them some criticism there. But we could also pull up here. I want to pull the stats, the general stats here. As we have Sam Darnold, 25 for 40 on the night, 245 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, a pretty ugly interception. He also lost a fumble on the night. Matthew Stafford, 19 for 27, 209 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. That offense, I think, really, if you really look at it, the offense kind of picked up a little bit, right, tonight. And of course, you can talk about Kupp maybe not really being there as much. We want to make sure everything's all right with Kupp. Maybe he's not 100%, whatever it is. We want to make sure we get the ball to him throughout the rest of the playoffs. But, Puka Nacua looked pretty good. the big one we talked about, right? Tyler Higbee. You can see here leaving in receiving yards, 5 receptions, 58 receiving yards. We're going to talk about the injury update for Tyler Higbee later on in today's episode, but ultimately, right? Kyren Williams, 16 carries, 76 yards. I mean, overall, the offense looked more like what the Rams are used to we're seeing them look like, right? And so they're going to have to still figure out some little minor things here and there, especially hopefully Tyler Higbee's ready to go and ready to play next week. But ultimately, the Rams have to tweak some things here to get Cooper Kupp involved still, continue to have this run game succeed, and get Puka Nacua the ball a little bit more than what we were able to see out of them tonight. But ultimately, a great game all around, and we can continue to pull up some more screenshots here. We have a lot of things to get into. Here are the general stats I did want to kind of bring up here, the team stats, right? Total yards and all that stuff is good, but we want to talk about the negatives for the Rams, some concerns from the Rams. You never really want to have 5 punts in a game if you go down toward the stats there. 5 punts wasn't really too great. 2 for 10 in terms of their third down efficiency, so that's not great as either, right? That's also not as great. But you have a forced fumble, you have an interception, got 9 sacks in the football game. Enough said for what the Rams did in terms of statistically, defensively. Again, you knew this defense was young, flying around everywhere. Quentin Lake looking great. Cam Kitchens doing his thing. Akila Witherspoon talk about as well, maybe dealing with a little bit of an injury, but ultimately, man, I mean, it's just we should just stick with just nothing but positives out of this game. The Rams did what they had to do. They won the game and dominated and really put the league on notice. The NFL may be a little bit concerned now about the Rams. We talked about maybe they're concerned. Maybe the Rams are a little bit of a team that nobody really wants to see. You go out there, the Minnesota Vikings didn't want to see the Rams. Definitely didn't want to see this kind of defense, the way they were flying around to the ball, flying to the quarterback, putting pressure on Sam Darnold all night. Incredible stuff out of the Rams. They just looked like the team that was ready to play, and they played hungry. They really did play hungry, and it was great and awesome to see for sure. We can move on from that and keep pulling up some more screenshots as we have a Matthew Stafford quote here. Matthew Stafford saying, "This time of year doesn't reward you to be timid. You got to go out there and make plays. You got to go win games in the playoffs. Can't just hope things fall your way." And we know this, right? We know Matthew Stafford is this guy when it comes down to the playoffs. This is why you have the experienced quarterback. And this is why, honestly, when the trade happened, right, I can't really have much to prove it here, but I did mention, okay, I had my own personal podcast at the time, and I had actually mentioned at the time of that trade, a lot of people were saying the Rams got fleeced, right, for Jared Goff, or was it the other way around? I can't remember. I think it was people saying that the Rams got fleeced because they had to give up not only Jared Goff, their quarterback, who was maybe at the time not that much of a difference from Sam Darnold, from Sam Darnold. Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, maybe there wasn't that much disparity in terms of what how different the quarterbacks were. The Rams had to give up almost equal level talent quarterback and also give up first round picks, right, for Matthew Stafford. And they were saying, oh, the Rams got fleeced. And I mean, look how many players, right, that the Detroit Lions ended up picking up from there, right? They have a Super Bowl contending team now from those picks that they got from the Rams. But I did mention at the time, I said, you don't get fleeced in a trade if you're looking at the situation and saying, we have a quarterback. I think this quarterback is going to take us over the top. And that's what happened. And that's what they did when they chose Matthew Stafford in that trade with Jared Goff. And it worked out. We won the Super Bowl. Now you're in a situation, right, a few years later, this is why you go after a guy like Matthew Stafford. He's sitting there telling you, I had to sling the ball. I had to throw it around. And the Rams really did, right? Although Kyren Williams got up to 16 carries for the day, they threw the ball all over the field tonight, and I think that was kind of a key for them. They were really effective and aggressive when it came to throwing the football, and I think that was kind of something that we haven't really been seeing the last few weeks out of the Rams, and I think that was a key to them succeeding, right? Pass first a little bit, especially earlier in the game, and it was really a little bit of a surprise. Maybe caught the Vikings off guard. They expected maybe to have to slow down Kyren Williams first as opposed to the other way around, And this is why, this quote, again, is why you get a guy like Matthew Stafford. He's aggressive. He understands when it comes down to this, you got to make plays. You got to make plays when it comes down to the playoffs, and that's what he did, Matthew Stafford. Great game today. We'll hear from Sean McVay here, as Sean McVay says. And all you, this is his post-game speech, by the way, and all you guys did, you represented exactly what we wanted to be about, a city that's effing going through a lot of different stuff that can look at you guys and say, I'm proud of that group. And yeah, man, I think Los Angeles is proud. I think Los Angeles is proud of what the Rams did on Monday nights. Again, going against the Minnesota Vikings, a difficult team to play against, a team that was playing well most of the season, to go out and win the game the way they did. Just an awesome performance, and there is still uphill battles to go. It's only going to get harder from here, but the Rams put the league on notice, put the stamp on this game, and just kind of solidify themselves as potentially, truthfully, Super Bowl contenders. And we'll talk about this all week long as we are super excited to discuss the future matchup for the Rams versus the Philadelphia Eagles, but also discuss everything they did well, all the numbers and details we'll talk about in the next couple of days of how they played against the Minnesota Vikings on Monday night. We can pull up some more screenshots here as we're going to move on. Just a little quick funny tweet here. This was actually posted January 6th. Dan Campbell to Kevin O'Connell. I'll see you in 2 weeks, Sean McVay. And I took that personally, right? Michael Jordan meme here. Sean McVay probably really has that posted up somewhere, right? On a wall somewhere. And sorry, I keep pulling the wrong screenshots. But yeah, we talked about that. They probably had that up somewhere in the locker room because they looked motivated tonight to make, like Quentin Lake said on NFL Network, we're going to hopefully make someone eat their words, right? And they really did. They really did make Dan Campbell eat his words a little bit. Maybe you can say we're waiting on that matchup, and hopefully they can face a team like Detroit down the road. But at this moment in time, people are going to ask Dan Campbell about that quote for sure. And I'm sure he'll probably, brush it off, try to focus on his game first. But ultimately, funny stuff here. Moving on to some more stuff here. I did want to pull this tweet up just because I wanted to hear from, or wanted you guys to hear from what Roger Goodell had to say about the whole moving the game situation. We can just talk about this for a second as he says, one of the things we wanted to do playing this game tonight is send that message to the people back in Los Angeles that the NFL, this community, every community in this nation and around the world are here to support them. That's what Roger Goodell had to say on Monday night, talking to Joe Buck. And so, cool stuff there. I think they did try their best to make it as Rams home game as possible. I think they did a good job, and the Rams looked comfortable for sure, and so that's a positive. Moving on from that, let's see what else we got here. Real quick, the Rams tweeting the pregame game preview picks, and this was majority of the people playing the Minnesota Vikings or picking the Minnesota Vikings to win. A couple guys in there getting their picks for the Rams, but yeah, most people you ask, right, probably would have picked the Minnesota Vikings in this game, and that's just kind of the reality that we sit in. Just really want to quickly pull up here some of the injury report updates. We don't have obviously all the details here, but Tyler Higbee, Ahkello Witherspoon, and Bobby Brown, all three left at some point in the game dealing with different types of injuries. Bobby Brown was more of a shoulder injury. Can't remember if he ever returned to the game or not. Ahkello Witherspoon, he exited Monday night's wild card matchup with a thigh injury. He was doubtful to return. Don't think he ended up returning. And then Tyler Higbee, the big one here, Rams coach Sean McVay said after the Rams wild card win over Minnesota on Monday that Higbee is in the hospital. So definitely not the best news, but he's in stable condition. So another scary note to have to add to his injury update. But I do know he did say, even though he's dealing with a chest injury, that is Tyler Higbee, Sean McVay did say he believes he's going to be okay, but does that mean generally okay, or does that mean okay enough to play next week? We'll have to wait and see on that. I'm sure maybe we got some updates by the time this is posted, and we'll give you guys some updates as the week moves on. But that is where the situation lies for that. And then we could pull up here some more stuff to talk about. Sean McVay again saying Tyler Higbee chest, he thinks he's going to be okay. And last but not least, a very, very interesting stat here. The Vikings have only lost 4 games this year. Week 6 versus the Lions, Week 7 versus the Rams, Week 18 versus the Lions, and wild card round versus the Rams. Back-to-back losses twice this season. Very, very intriguing stuff. Don't know what you want to take from that. But the Vikings couldn't beat the Lions, couldn't beat the Rams this year. So very interesting, to say the least. A lot more to get into this week. A lot more to talk about. I'm sure I missed some stuff already that you guys have already seen updates on. We're going to get those to you as soon as possible. That's going to do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. Rams win. Got the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to talk about that all week long here at the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Josh Giron, and I'm out.